All right, so mod 6 and 7, graphing quadratics. We graph quadratics in 3 different forms. I'm turning my paper over because this is something you may want to put on that note card that I just said you could make. We have, and I think I put this on some notes a week or 2 ago. But we could have quadratics in standard form. What is standard form? Y equals, yes, y equals ax squared from plus bx plus c. How do you find your vertex from that form? And then once you find that, that goes in the middle on your x side. Then you fill your values around, plug them in to find your y, and go from there. Okay? Again, this is note card worthy right here. I should not see you on your cell phone. All right. Next one we did is called Vertex Form. And it's called Vertex Form because it's really easy to get your intercepts, right? No, it's called Vertex Form because it gives you the vertex. Duh. A times x minus h squared plus k. And from here you get your vertex hk, keeping in mind that h is the opposite sign of whatever it is in the formula. And once you find that, that's what goes in the middle, and you fill in your values around and do the same thing as you did before. Yeah. Capiche? Again, note card. And then finally, what you tested on yesterday was called Intercept Form, and that was y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. So p comma 0 and q comma 0 are x intercepts, and your vertex is halfway between. Remember that? So to get your vertex, you find whatever's halfway between P and Q. Another way you can find that is you can take P, you can add it to Q, and divide by 2. P plus Q divided by 2. Hey, it rhymes. And then that is what goes in the middle of your XY chart. So, 3 different ways to start the process of graphing, and once you have your vertex starting point, the rest of the process is the same. Okay? Is that helpful? Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Oh, Hanukkah's over, isn't it? Yeah. I think it is. Sorry. I don't know what's next. Yeah, it started early. Okay. Can I turn my paper back over? Not yet? Okay. In between P and Q. So it's halfway in between whatever these 2 points are. Now your vertex, now let me clarify something. Your vertex is not going to be something comma 0 just like these guys are. The x value of your vertex is halfway between those. Meaning that when you graph your intercepts, if they're here, and you're looking for halfway, your vertex isn't here. Your vertex is like either down here or up here, depending on what direction it opens. That just gives me the x value of my vertex to start out on my chart.
Or it gives you your axis of symmetry?
It gives me my axis of symmetry is another way to think about it. And my vertex is always on the axis of symmetry. Okay? Can I turn it over now?
Yes, you can.
Hmm?
Are you recording?
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm turning it back over now. Now, if I look at this equation right here, what form is this in? Of the three forms I just talked to you about, what form is this in? Intercept form. So, I have intercepts of not positive 7, but negative 7, 0, as well as not negative 1, but positive 1, 0. Now, when it says orientation, I'm asking, does this open up or open down? It opens up. How do you know? Because what's positive? My A value is positive, so we have something that opens up. Okay? We also discussed this idea of something being narrow or wide. And again, that all depends on this A value. If that A value is bigger than 1, what is it? When it is bigger than 1, it is narrow. I wish I had a rubber band. I don't, but I have a hair tie. That'll do. Huh? Yes. Gosh. Okay, if you think about it, when this is a big number, it's a vertical stretch, correct? Watch my hair tie. When I stretch it vertically, is it going to become wider or narrower? Narrower. So a vertical stretch makes it narrower, but a vertical compression makes it wider. Okay?
So if we say opens down, then it makes it wider.
Opening up or down is irrelevant. It's whether it's a stretch or a compression. Because it could still open down and be narrower, or down and be wider. Okay? So, let me summarize that. Orientation. It opens up when you have a positive A value. Over here, I have a positive A value. That's not going to help me. Down here, I have a negative A value. That's going to open down. Narrow or wide. If your A value is greater than 1, it's narrow. If your A value is a fraction that's less than 1, it's wide. So let's see. If A is less than 1, that makes it wide. So in other words, this one right here would be wide.
And the negative has nothing to do with it, right?
Negative has nothing to do with narrow or wide. It only determines the orientation. Okay? All right. How do I find my vertex from intercept form? I have to find out what's exactly halfway between negative 7 and 1. So I can either...
Wait, was she still recording?
Okay, my recording paused, but I think we might be okay. Fingers crossed. Okay. To find my vertex, I could either look at a graph and look at negative 7 and positive 1 on my x-axis and look and count to what's exactly halfway between there. Or I can do my little shortcut here, which is add your two intercepts together and divide by 2. So, if my intercepts are, gosh, there's not much room to write, negative 7 and 1, I would add them together and divide by 2. That would give me negative 6 over 2, which is, that is the x value of my vertex. It's not my entire vertex, but it is the x value of my vertex. How would I find the y value of my vertex then? Plug it in up here. So 12 parentheses, negative 3 plus 7 parentheses negative 3 minus 1. Negative 192. Good thing I'm not graphing that. That's ugly. Now, I will say this in general. The more space that there is between your zeros, the bigger that number is going to be. If your intercepts or your zeros are really close to each other, this is going to be a smaller number. But if they're really far away from each other, it's going to be a bigger number in general. Okay? All right, I'm done with that. Question? What was that?
How did you get that negative 192?
I plugged in negative 3 into this equation for x. Okay? Any other questions there?
No, man.
Okay. Number 2, what is my orientation here? What direction does it open? How do you know it opens up? Positive A. Negative A opens down. Note card. Just saying, if you have a highlighter or something, you may want to highlight these things as I say them, because then you can go back and put them all together. As opposed to on Monday night sitting there going, now what did she say needs to go on my note card?
Wait, it's Monday.
Sounds about right.
No, it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is fourth period. Sorry.
We have it Tuesday.
No, you have it Wednesday.
2541136.
Yep. Okay. What form is this, by the way? Vertex form. So I should get my entire vertex. I don't have to just get the x value and plug it back in. I actually get my whole vertex. Change the sign of this guy. And then the other value is, there's my vertex. What's my axis of symmetry?
Oh, yeah, I already wrote it down.
You guys all forgot that you have to have the x equals there. Come on, people.
Oh, I wrote that down.
-9.
Okay?
-10.
All right. Now, these instructions are a little off. It should say numbers 3 to 5.
Okay.
Graph them. So these 3 we're going to graph in just a minute.
On the paper?
Wait, how do we graph?
Wow. It's like the training wheels are off and you're all going to fall off your bikes now. No. I will graph in just a minute. I'm going to do the last few problems first. And then I'll go back and graph, okay? So, rewrite this in standard form. We did that several times. Do you remember?
Yeah.
I think so.
So, if I have to rewrite, I'm going to do it on a separate piece of paper. So, the problem is, this is number 6. And the problem says rewrite y equals -4 parentheses x plus 5 squared minus 8. How do I rewrite it in standard form? That squared thing means I have to do x plus 5 and
X plus 5 -8.
then minus 8. And then, let's see, I'm going to multiply these two together.
Squared plus 5x plus 5x plus 25.
Someone is a pro at the distributive method.
Yes, ma'am.
Love it. So I get y equals -4 and then x squared plus 10x plus 25. Notice how I've kept it in parentheses this whole time? Why?
It helps it.
How?
Organize yourself.
How?
So you can see what you have to do.
It reminds me that I have to distribute this 4
Yeah.
after. So that gives me -4x squared minus 40x minus 100. Do I have to distribute to the -8?
No.
No, because it's not in parentheses. So my final answer is y equals -4x squared minus 40x minus 108. And that was actually on not the last test, the test before, as well as on one of your homework assignments from this chapter. Okay. Number 7. By the way, what form was that? That was vertex form. What is this form?
Standard form.
No. This is standard form. What's this form?
Oh, that is Intercept Form.
This was vertex form.
That's the second one, Intercept Form.
Intercept form. So, same type of process, but I don't have this write it twice thing. I already have my 2 parentheses.
Wait, what form is this?
This is intercept form, but the instructions are still rewrite it in standard form. So I'm still going to multiply it all out. So I have x squared plus 7x minus 4x minus 28.
Yeah.
Combine my like terms. X squared plus 3x minus 28. And then distribute that -3. -3x squared minus 9x 3 times 28 is 84, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So there's my standard form there. So far, so good?
C.
Okay. Leave it up there for you for a minute. Now, did anyone notice that the problems are not numbered correctly on the paper?
Come on, Miss Rankin, you had one job.
I had one job. I do more than one thing, thank you very much. Also, I took this from another teacher. I didn't make it myself. So I'll throw that other teacher under the bus then. There's no 8, 9, or 10. There's just 11 and 12. So it makes you think that there's 12 problems on the worksheet, but really there's actually only 9. All right, so write an equation of the function in...
Vertex Form.
So I'm getting the impression that it's going to be important for you to know the difference between these 3 forms. Are you getting that impression, hopefully?
No.
Awesome.
No, because I always figure it out.
Of course.
Okay, so Vertex Form
I don't know what that
is my y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. And where do I get h and k from?
is. From the,
From the...
what's it called? From the, what's it called?
Vertex.
Yeah. Oh, the vertex.
The vertex. That's where I get my h and k from. That's why it's called vertex form. So, what is my vertex here? I think my vertex is right there.
Negative 4, 2.
Negative 4, comma 2. Guess what? There's my h. There's my k. So at this point, I know my equation is x. If my h is a negative 4, what's it going to look like when I put it in the equation? Plus 4 squared. And then k, I don't worry about changing the sign. I just keep it as a positive 2. How the heck do I find a? Because I leave the x and the y, but how do I find a?
That's there, the point.
Use the extra point. What is that extra point?
Negative 3, 3.
So negative 3, comma 3 is the point right here. So I'm going to plug in 3 for y and negative 3 for x. So 3 equals a parentheses negative 3 plus 4 squared plus 2. And let's do some solving here. 3 equals a. What's negative 3 plus 4? 1. Okay, what is 1 squared?
Why?
So what's a times 1 squared?
1.
Just 1a, or just a, right? So now I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And a equals
1.
1. So if I come back here and I replace a with 1, I have my final answer. My vertex form is y equals... Now, you can write that one or you don't have to. If it was a negative, you would absolutely have to write it. But a plain old one, we don't have to write. But it's not wrong if you do. Squared plus 2. There's my equation. Easy peasy?
Yes.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
So you got 3, 3 from that second point?
Yep.
So we write on the equation, we don't have to write form.
There are 3 different forms to make your life miserable.
You gotta be messed up.
That's why.
That's a good choice of words.
Okay, let's see. Intercept form. That would be my y equals a times x minus p times x minus q. Now, don't say this is difficult when you're able to have a 3x5 card that has all those forms on it.
Yeah, I could write on there. My bad.
Exactly.
I just need a card.
I would suggest writing all of this on there.
Wait, let me take a picture.
Yeah, did you write on the back?
No, I wasn't here.
Yeah, you're getting
Yeah, wait, hold on, let me take a
a
picture.
kick.
Okay, well, it's going to have to take 2 pictures because it doesn't fit.
That's what she's.
You can make it bigger. You can make it smaller, can't you?
Okay, next. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I also took some notes up here about when it's a positive A, it opens up. Negative A, it opens down. Hopefully you have all that. Narrower when A is greater than 1. Wider when A is less than 1. Okay. My intercepts. One of them is -3, which means that in parentheses it's going to look like x plus 3. My other intercept is +1, which means in parentheses it's going to look like -1. Yes? And to find A, I do the exact same thing I did in the other problem. I use that other point that's given. What is the other point that's given? -2, 12. And I'm going to plug in 12 for y, and I'm going to plug in -2 for my x's. So 12 equals A times -2 plus 3 times -2 minus 1. What is -2 plus 3? What is -2 minus 1? So 1 times -3 is -3A.
Yes.
Divide by -3.
Is he negative or?
And A is -4. So I just have to put -4 in right there, and I have my equation.
Yes.
So y equals -4, parentheses, x plus 3, x minus 1. Finito.
He did it.
Capiche? Yes.
How'd you get your 3? Your P and your Q values?
My intercepts. -3 is an intercept, so it's going to look like a +3 in parentheses. +1 is an intercept, so it's going to look like -1 in parentheses. Pretty much whenever you are putting a number into parentheses or taking it out, you have to change the sign. K, we never change the sign of because it's never going into parentheses or coming out of parentheses. Okay?
Oh, okay, I see.
All right? I'm down to 3 problems. Which 3?
We're done.
No.
I've got my 3 graphs.
Wow.
Okay? So, I am going to get a piece of this paper that they make that has grids on it. It's called graph paper because you can graph on it. It's amazing. I know.
Never use that in my
It's
life.
amazing. And I'm even going to...
Are you giving us some for the podcast?
There is graph paper right here if you would like to get your own. So, I am going to just make myself a graph here really quick.
Did you have to go pee?
And while I'm at it, I'm going to make 3 graphs because I have 3 problems that I need to do, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's do this. Now, you can graph on a piece of lined paper if you want to. It's a little bit easier to graph on graph paper.
Yeah, it makes it neater.
Are you supposed to graph
Hey,
it
it's fiber, you take
like a specific length?
What is so funny, man?
On a test, I give you a grid. So you'll just, I wouldn't make you construct it from scratch. Okay. So here's number 3. You ready?
Yes.
Y equal, actually, sorry, it says f of x equals x minus 2 squared plus 3. It asks me to identify the vertex, the axis of symmetry, max and min, and domain and range. So I just want to make sure I have all that down. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. What form is this in?
This is in. This is in Vertex Form.
It's in vertex form. So what is my vertex?
2.
+2, +3.
Yes.
Which means that my axis of symmetry is what?
2.
It's what?
2. X equals 2.
It's x equals 2. It means my maximum or min value is 3. I don't know whether it's a max or a min yet until I graph it. Or I could look at the orientation. What direction is this going to open?
Up.
because it's positive.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a minimum.
Minimum of 3.
What is my domain?
All real numbers.
And can you tell me my range without even graphing it?
No.
If this is 3 and it's a minimum, aren't all the y values greater than 3?
Yes.
So all my y values are greater than or equal to 3. And I haven't even graphed a darn thing yet.
Wow, we got all that information.
I know, it's amazing.
All them points.
Okay, so I'm going to do my XY chart over here because I don't think I'm going to use this part of the graph, so I think I have some extra space. How can I make that assumption? Well, my vertex is all the way over here, 2, 3. So I think my graph's going to be going like this. So I'm not going to be in anybody's way over here. So what do I do with my vertex?
You plot it. Oh wait, you put it in the middle.
Put it in the middle.
Then you go 3, 4.
I count around it.
Yeah. 2, 1.
And how do I find those other values?
You plug them into the equation.
Plug them in. So I'm going to start off with 0. 0 minus 2 parentheses squared plus 3 is 7. Now, if I have the correct vertex, what number should also get me 7?
4.
4. So if I go back and check 4, 7, I'm pretty sure my vertex is correct. So now let's try 1, 4, and 3 should also be getting me 4. There it is. So let's plot the rest of them. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 4, 3, 4, and 4, 7. There's my parabola. And,
That's the vertex one, right?
yep, I need it. There we go. Axis of symmetry. Boom. Done.
Yay.
Woohoo! Alrighty. Next problem. Problem number 4. I'm going to scroll it. I'm going to move it down just a little bit. Y equals 2x squared plus 4x plus 5. I'm going to need to find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, the max, min, the domain, and the range. All right, what form are we in here?
We're in
Standard form. So, if you remember from back here, how do I find the vertex, or my starting point?
negative b over 2a.
Negative b over 2a. So, I'm going to do that down here just because I don't know where my extra space is going to be there. But negative, what's b?
Negative 4.
Over 2 times a. A is, so that gives me negative 4 over positive 4, which is negative 1. What did I just find? The x value of my vertex. That also tells me my axis of symmetry. X equals negative 1. Does it tell me anything about my max min?
No.
No. Do I know my domain?
Yes, all real numbers.
Do I know anything about my range?
No.
No, because I don't know what that y value is, but I do know that because a is positive, we have something opening up, so I will have a minimum value, and my range will be y is greater than or equal to something.
Okay.
I just have to figure out what that number is.
Yep.
Okay? So, I'm going to do my xy chart over here. What goes in the middle of my xy chart? Negative 1. Fill in some values around, 5 values preferably. And then I find the y values by
Plug them in.
plug it in, plug it in. I always want to sing McGlade song whenever I think. I don't know. It just fits in my head. Plus 4 times negative 3 plus 5. I get 11. Now, if I did this correctly, and that is my vertex, 1 should also get me 11. Yeah? So let me try 1 here and here. Yay! It's looking promising. Okay, so let's try negative 2. Oops, not negative 21. And I get 5, which means 0 is also going to get me 5. And then finally -1. That's the big one. 3. So, what's my vertex? It's -1, 3. My minimum value is 3. My range is y is greater than or equal to 3. And let's plot our points. -3, 11 is really high.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All the way up there. And then -2, 5. -1, 3. 0, 5. And 1, 11. Fill in my graph. And don't forget your axis of symmetry. And you're done. So?
Wait, I didn't finish it.
And we're ready for the last one. Notice how I didn't make this dinky little graph. I had no idea how big this graph was going to take. So just give yourself room. You know, on a test or a quiz, I give you the grid so you don't have to worry about how big you're going to make it. Okay? All right. Last one. Number 5 says y equals negative parentheses x plus 5 and x minus 1. What form is that? Intercept form. My intercepts are -5, 0 and +1, 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1. So, what is halfway between -5 and +1? I think it's right there. Does that look halfway between? Good answer. That's -2. Thank you. So, now that I found my halfway point, remember the other way you could do it is you could take -5 plus 1 and divide it by 2. That gives you -4 over 2, which is -2. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to fill in some values around there. -1 and 0. And I'm going to start plugging stuff in. So, negative, parentheses, -4 plus 5, parentheses, -4 minus 1. That gets me 5. I'm going to change the -4 to a -3. I get 8. Change the -3 to a -2. I get 9. And now let's check if we get that mirror image. Change it to a -1. 8, looking promising. And let's see, 0, 0, I get 5. So we're good there. So let's see, -4, 5, -3, 8, -2, 9, -1, 8, and 0, 5. Do you notice my intercepts didn't happen to be in those 5 points? So I just have the bonus of having 7 points on my graph instead of just 5.
Wow.
I know. I'm extra. Let's see. And now I can draw in my axis of symmetry. And now I can fill out all that information that I had on the other side that I didn't have here. So vertex, what was it? Vertex, axis of symmetry, max, min, domain, and range. So, what's my vertex? -2, 9.
Oh, it's right there.
It's right there, right?
My bad.
What's my axis of symmetry?
X equals -2.
Do I have a maximum or a minimum?
A maximum
Of 9. What's my domain?
all real numbers
And my range?
is
Y is less than or equal to 9. Y less than or equal to? Because it's going down. Okay? All right, so that's your final review for Mod 6 and 7. There you go. Happy studying.